Hey everybody, I just wanted to do a quick little review and first impression, I guess, of my new Reebok Realflexes. No, you're not looking at them. These are my Vibram 5 fingers, but these are actually the reason that I ended up with Reebok Realflexes. Um, I've recently become a big advocate of barefoot running, I guess. The whole idea that our feet are meant to run or walk barefoot. We're not really meant to be having these new running shoes where we land with our heel first. We were actually intended to run with our feet forward, landing at the front, so that the bones in our feet work properly and absorb instead of our heel, because of course there's no shock absorption in our heels. And basically it's this whole new movement to barefoot running. So I ended up with these Vibram 5 fingers, which I love, I swear by. They're a lot of fun. They allow you to basically walk and run as if you're barefoot, but you have a little bit of protection on the bottom. You have a few millimeters of rubber protecting your foot, and with having the toes separate, you kind of can act like you are walking with your hands, where your feet basically your toes are able to move and flex over top of rocks and things like that. It's a really neat experience that I really love, and I notice my feet getting stronger when I do that. Problem is I can't really wear these around town because while our feet were meant to run that way or walk that way, they weren't really meant to be cruising around on pavement and other man-made things like that. So I was looking for something that is a little bit along the lines of barefoot running, but offered more protection, and that's where the Realflexes came in. These are marketed as a barefoot running shoe as well, but obviously a lot more protection. You can see right away there's a much thicker sole on there, and it looks more like a conventional shoe. You don't have the individual pockets for your toes. Now the thing about the Realflexes is, of course, it's more like a real shoe, but it's kind of a compromise that between me getting a full-on running shoe and still trying to have that barefoot kind of feel, right? So the thing about the Realflexes is they've actually got a regular sole, but they've got what they say is 76 little sensors on the bottom. So if you kind of look at them at the side, most of them are independent. I think the ones in the back here are together, and somewhere up in the front here, these ones are supposed to be tied together for impact protection. But more or less, these are all separate. So what you've got is kind of like a running shoe bottom, in the sense that you have the same protection, but all these more or less can move independently. So it allows you to totally move your foot around if you want, and side to side protection, or movement I should say, sorry. So you still get that kind of natural movement of your foot, but you have all the protection. And this really jumped out at me as being a good kind of city and street shoe, as opposed to the 5 fingers that, of course, just don't really have the protection. They're really thin, and in the city it doesn't really protect you from some of the harder objects. And I found that I was still landing with my heel on the pavement, and I could feel it go all the way up through my knees, and that's obviously really bad. Still love these, still swear by them, and I'll continue to use these on the trails and in the dirt and things like that, in more natural kind of terrain. But in the city, I kind of wanted that barefoot feel with the protection, right? So the Realflexes are awesome. You can tell right here, you can see right through the side. It's really, really thin, super breathable. Really, I find it allows you to still move almost the same way as the 5 fingers. There's really not much to these shoes. You don't have a lot of support or anything, and it really still forces your foot to flex the way it normally would if you're barefoot. I found that when I first put these on and went for a run, I found my foot was a little sore, and that might sound like a bad thing, but generally that's actually a good thing, as they teach us with the 5 fingers, because generally our our feet aren't used to actually working properly. You know, we're normally counting on running shoes to do the work for us. And when you run barefoot or you run in 5 fingers, something like that, your foot is forced to use muscles that it doesn't normally use. And that's the feeling I got when I first tried these out. I hadn't been wearing my 5 fingers for a while, and so I kind of got that feeling, but it was great. You feel the muscles working in your foot that you don't normally feel. So I really enjoyed that. I was actually looking at the Nike Frees as well, but I just found that they didn't flex quite as much as these. They definitely flex a lot this way, but sorry I can't really show you because I'm holding the phone here, but these flex side to side really well as well. I found a little bit better than the Nikes did. Big difference between the Nikes and the Realflexes, though. I have tried on both. The Nikes I found were quite wide, which should have been a good thing for me. I have a wider foot. These are a little bit narrower, but I find that just because it's such a flexible side to it, that these still work really well for me. I don't notice any cramping or anything like that. They still work really, really well. Differences too are that this has an independent tongue. You can see here it's a regular tongue. In the Nike Frees, it's all fused together. It's kind of like a big sock kind of deal. Either way, I don't really care. I just found that this is a little bit more like a regular shoe, and I like that. The Nikes also have some weird kind of pattern going on the side. This is just a regular shoe. It's quite nice. And I liked that I was able to get this color option. You can custom order the Realflexes, and you can get whatever color you want, basically. And this was a custom order, so I was able to get a black top with a black sole. Typically in the stores you'll see the black comes with a blue, kind of an electric blue, or a white if I recall correctly, which they're both kind of fun, but I wanted something kind of low pro that sort of blended in and didn't stand out. The weight on these is pretty minimal. They're pretty light. Obviously there's not much to these shoes, so you put them on and you kind of feel like you're a lot faster. You don't have anything weighing you down, and you can just kind of go. Other than that, that's pretty much it. You know, I've had these out maybe a handful of times. I got them maybe a week and a half ago, so I've been walking to work with them and really like them. And I would recommend them to anybody who is a barefoot running enthusiast, or is just getting into it, or maybe they really like their 5 fingers. I know a lot of people really like the 5 fingers. You can see I like them a lot. They're coming apart. Time for a repair or some new ones. But the 5 fingers are just not all that practical in the city, unfortunately. I know a lot of runners were trying to use them for triathlons and stuff, and they were getting stress fractures, I guess. And I can see that. I can understand. You know, it makes sense. Our feet were meant to run barefoot, but they really weren't meant to run on hard surfaces. You know, it's man-made surfaces. That kind of thing doesn't normally exist in nature, with the exception of rocks and stuff. But you know, typically you're kind of rolling over those and moving on. So, for anybody looking for an alternative to the 5 fingers or something along those lines, these are going to work really well. You know, I can throw these on with a pair of jeans and they look just fine, and I can go for a run too if I want on the pavement when I'm not going to hit the trail. So overall, I'm a real big fan of these. They're about $100 where I am. I was able to shop around and find them a little cheaper. Wherever you are, you know, I'm sure you can find a deal. But I think it's 110 retail where I am up in Canada, and that's not too shabby. I've seen running shoes for a lot worse. So overall, pretty happy with these shoes.